What's going on, world? And welcome back to the Pursuit of the Good Life podcast, where we talk about how to enhance your careers and pursue those goals. I'm your host, the Cameron Lovelace, joined as always by the amazing Dr. Sara Lee Benson. Sara, how you doing in today's day and time?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
As everybody knows, we are in the second week of like major protests around the cities of the United States. It's been intense. We were in Oklahoma City this past weekend. Shout out to my granny. She turned 91 Sunday.
Big 9-1.
Big 91, and she's still out here being as feisty. If anybody knows my grandmama, she don't play. Like, she's a feisty old lady. But they were actually protesting like 4 blocks over from like where she lives. So my grandmother. So I don't know if people recognize a lot of these protests are in like the inner city or like
Where there are a lot of black
urban areas where there are a bunch of black people. So like my grandma lives on the east side, which is an all black community. There's nothing on the east side. We were actually talking about that. There's really like nothing on the east side, but like they were like four or 5 blocks over. It was just really intense because there's a police station also down the street from our grandmother's house. And like at one point it was like 20 cars going and like just sirens. And I'm just like, okay, like this is a lot. This is a lot. Like they ended up walking away from the area and they like walked to like the Capitol and stuff. But like it's been pretty intense. How about you? How are you doing?
So on one hand, I'm pretty numb. I shared this at work earlier this week when we had our staff meeting. I'm pretty numb because just from really, I think really like this movement and being aware of this has really started with Trayvon.
Yeah.
Way back in, I think it was 2010, 2011. And here we are now in the age of social media when everything that's been happening for years and years and years is now being recorded. It's like, here we go again with me. That was my kind of initial reaction. It was like, here we go again. And a piece of me is just tired of like the post for 2 weeks and then on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But I do have a glimmer of hope in that this is the most I have ever seen anybody that is not Black post Black Lives Matter protest in any and everything. This is the most I've ever seen non-Black faces protest. So I do have a little glimmer of hope. But outside of that, we're in grind mode over here because, as I've told on the podcast before, Sparkle is going to be applying for PT school soon, which means she's got to knock out these other class prerequisites before her application is due this fall. So she has 2 classes. She's also in massage therapy school, and she's working full-time all at the same time.
So, we got to give it to my girl Sparkle. She on it.
So she's in full grind mode. So my role is just to reduce as much stress as her as possible, make sure she's eating enough, sleeping enough. So we're in grind mode over here. I'm about to record some e-courses for the upcoming year. And we still moving and grooving in the midst of it, but it's still just it's real heavy right now. And I personally have to limit my interactions on social media and limit my how long I stay on social media, because it takes nothing but a simple swipe, and here I am seeing somebody either talk about it, I see George Floyd's face, or I just see it, and it's just like, in order for me to function like I need to function, I have to limit myself to only a certain amount when I'm on social media. So it's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I understand. I was actually yesterday, we had a meeting with our success coaches. We were supposed to do something else, but I just felt like we needed just a space to vent, because our group is it's a diverse group. So we have Black white, male, female people in one setting. And so one of the things I told them was, I asked them the question, like, what's so different about this? And I say that because George Floyd isn't the first Black man to get killed by the police. He's not the first one to get killed by the police on video. But this feels different. And I was telling them, I was like, this feels different because this is, like you said before, this is the first time I've seen so many companies, so many like non-Black people post about it, talk out about it, right? I got so many emails yesterday from companies, and even to this morning, just companies that like I've shopped with who just given their statement on Black Lives Matter. And I'm just like, wow, like we didn't get this before, right? Like we didn't get this with Trayvon. We didn't get this with Mike Brown. Like we didn't get this with Philando Castro. Like we didn't get this with, Sandra Bland. And now all of a sudden, like, and like I was telling him, I was like, I don't know if it's going to be just this major kumbaya, like now the world has changed. But I do know that people are becoming more aware. One of my success coaches said that her own mother, she's white, she's like, her own mom has like started like processing white privilege. And her own mom made the comment to like a friend that, you know what, as a mother, I don't have to worry about my kids. I don't have to worry if my kid's gonna come home. I don't have to worry if my kid gets stopped by the police, if my child is going to survive that interaction. And I was like, you know what? I'm glad that we're having the conversation. I'm glad that we're having the conversation in the South, which historically is like one of the worst places. And I don't know how this is gonna play out in November. I don't know. I know there were some primaries yesterday. And I am happy to learn that there was this senator, somebody up in Iowa, who's just been like just full-blown racist for years. He got voted out. So he lost his primary. So I'm grateful for that. I think that little things are going to start happening. I think that we're finally at a place where everybody is starting to see what we've been screaming and yelling for 400 years, right? Like I heard an interview with the Breakfast Club with Rush Limbaugh, who is just like literally, I mean, I can call him the Grand Wizard. Like he is not a supporter of Black people. He was on the Breakfast Club and he talked about how this whole thing was wrong and that George, Floyd's death was wrong. And it was, and he admitted that. And I'm like, if we at a place where this man is saying something.
And I think the biggest, well, first of all, I'm curious before I say my thoughts, what did your people say? What did your team say? Like, what was their answer? What was their responses to why this is so different? Because I have a thought as why it's so different.
From yesterday. So some of them said that they think it's different because of the way George Floyd was killed. So they think it's different because here you have this man who's like physically, so it's not a gun, it's not some type of machine, it's him like physically putting his knee in somebody's neck. And when somebody mentioned that, they can't say it was a threat because he had his hand in his pocket. Like he was chilling, like this is something that he do on the regular. And like many of them feel like because of that image and the fact that he did it for 9 minutes and the fact that they have it on video, you can see these things, they think that like now people are really starting to see, because it's different from like most of everybody else. They were shot and killed. It's this threat, da 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 da. And then to know that he also had 3 other people holding him down, so he couldn't move his arms, couldn't move his legs. He's literally laid, like he is tied up basically, and this man is using his knee. And so that's what they said. They felt like it's because of the way it happened. And also, I think us being in quarantine has a little bit played to this as well. I think the fact that because people have been at home, we haven't been doing nothing else. And to see that, it's just like, it's giving people, to me, I feel like it's giving people an outlet to express like the rage and an outlet to express how they really feel. I mean, because what else you gonna do? if you're on social media all day, that's all you're gonna see. Personally, I've been off social media. I've decided to continue my break because it's just been too much. I was kind of on Saturday, you know, posting videos and stuff for my grandma, but it's like it's just too much. And I think I really felt it Sunday because I was looking at what was happening. There was all these protests happening in the city, and it just kind of came ahead for me. I'm just like, this is just too much.
I agree. So I agree with what they said. One, it's the way that the way that he was killed, because that's irrefutable that it was wrong. Cops who have chimed in and said there is no training that we go through that says it's okay to put your neck on somebody, let alone while they're handcuffed, helpless, stuff like that, until they die from asphyxiation. So one, I think it's the way that they die. I agree with that. Two, I agree with the fact that, yes, we're in a global pandemic, so everyone is kind of forced to kind of sit where we're typically like busy. We're typically, okay, I have to go do this. I have to go do this. This matters, but life still goes on for me. Well, majority of us, a large portion of us have kind of just stopped. And so we don't have to be, we're not as busy as we have to be. But I think it also has to do with Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor.
Yep.
Because those two, in addition to this, were two blatantly wrong circumstances where the man was doing nothing wrong. He was running something that everybody does. And I don't want to just say white people, but everybody likes to go for a run. They were killed. That's something that they do every day. Sitting at home, relaxing after coming home from doing essential work and coming in and getting busted in and getting killed. So I think those two kind of set it up. And then when this happened, I think this was the straw that broke the camel's back and just created this whole outrage. And for other people of other races, this is a new thing. This is like and it's like, I realize now how bad it is, because once you see his face, you see him added to all the other faces over the years, to Philando, to Sandra Bland, to Eric, Fred Gardner, like all these people. And you just like, wow, like we have a serious problem here.
It is a serious issue. I think that some people have become desensitized to it. I think like some people have become desensitized to it because it's like this has happened for so long and we've seen it go on for so long that some people are just like, it's another person. Like you said before, like it's another hashtag, it's another something, right? Like a lot of people. And so I think by doing these protests, by doing the things that we're doing, I think a lot of them are they're looking for change. They're looking for something different to happen, because I can remember Trayvon. I can remember Mike Brown. I can remember the feelings that we felt when, George Zimmerman got off, the feelings that we felt. And just like those early days of everybody just protesting and just feeling just the rage and just the anger. And getting to this place now, and it's just like, we're tired. Like, we are just tired. Like, Black people have been screaming for years, stop killing us. Like, just don't kill us, right? Like, not even, just don't kill us, right? Like, can we just live? Can we just literally just exist?
Right. And I think people are starting to understand, especially the people who were like, all lives matter at first. And I've seen plenty of posts that have been like, when Colin Kaepernick did this kneel protest years ago, I didn't get it. And I was completely outraged and I was against it. And I thought he was disrespecting the truth and blah, blah, blah. Now, today, I have to publicly say that I was wrong for this. And it's realizing that you saying that there's a problem doesn't mean that we're devaluing you and your experience and what all the rest of the lives are doing. That doesn't devalue the importance of all the other lives to say Black Lives Matter. it's saying Black Lives Matter just as much as every other life is addressing the problem and addressing why it is like this is so impactful and why this is so important. So I'm slightly more hopeful this time than when the Ahmaud videos came out, and then the information about Breonna Taylor videos came out. I'm slightly more hopeful this time around just because of that alone. But not to completely just talk about, how sad the world is. We want to definitely see, we want to talk about today how we can kind of continue to move the needle forward. And I think we had a conversation, me and Sarah had a conversation offline kind of about something that's, I think, happening more, and that's corporations and businesses that are talking about race, like within like teams and stuff. And I think the idea of a safe place is really important, because when you go to work and you go to work with people who are not Black, you realize that maybe they didn't have the same weekend that you just had.
That's true.
That is emotionally pulled and torn and stuff like that. One of my mentors, I saw something that he posted. He's like, I didn't realize how I felt about everything until I walked in and my coworker said, "Hey, how are you doing? How was your weekend?" And the light went up to him, is that she did not have the same experience that I had, which sent him made him feel all the feelings all over again. And so I think for those of you guys who are listening, who are in these places that are similar to that, I think it's important to create a safe space for you. And maybe that means at your next staff meeting, maybe before a staff meeting, pulling your boss to the side and say, "Hey, I would really think we should talk about this." Yeah. And talk about this, because you got to realize some people are just uncomfortable talking about it, and because they're uncomfortable, they don't know how to address it or talk about it. Like, on some level, everybody knows something is wrong.
Yeah.
But how do we acknowledge it and still continue to move forward with it? Because I mean, work, I get it. I really do. Work still has to be done, but the quality of that work is not going to be done, and the quality of your employees are not going to get done properly if you don't address the huge issues that's happening in our world. And I think the best way to do that is just to make sure, give the people the opportunity to feel, I characterize a safe place as a place where you can be seen, heard, and supported, in that order. You got to see me, that I'm in pain. You got to hear me from my pain, and be willing to support with what I'm going through. And I know that's harder to do than others. It's uncomfortable. It really is. But it's the only way that you're going to get the best out of your teammates. And for those of you who are on the other side of it saying, I wish that, my boss would do that, is it my responsibility? Unfortunately, yes, it is our responsibility to let them know what's going on, and kind of to initiate those conversations.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, but it just is what it is at this point.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that, so one of the things I am grateful for is my job. We have been taking steps to create these spaces. Mm-hmm. And so I'm grateful for that, because we recognize that there is a need for these conversations. We also recognize that these conversations are not comfortable. And one thing I also realize is that we don't like dealing with uncomfortable feelings and vulnerability as a whole. Like, everybody, whether you're white, Black, Mexican, brown, blue, whoever.
Confrontation and conflict.
Conflict, right? And so, but I agree with you. We do have to open up that door, because, like you said, they don't have the same experiences as we have, right? And so they can only see from their point of view. And unless I say something, they're really not going to know, right? Because they can just wake up and just go, But for people of color, for Black people, This isn't the just wake up and go thing. Like, this is like a daily policing of yourself,
right.
in a sense. And so, my job, I can say we definitely started having those conversations last week. It was very uncomfortable, but it was needed. And I'm grateful for that space to be able to talk through those things and to just simply be acknowledged. I think for a lot of people, we just want to be acknowledged. Like, you don't have to go over the mountain through the roof, right? Like, we just want to be acknowledged for the fact that I am here, I am human, I have value simply because I am human. Right? Like, I bring value because I am here. Like, that is my humanity. And in a perfect world, everybody will be in a space where that is acknowledged and what you're going through is acknowledged and you're supported in that space. I know for me, I definitely try to create those spaces with my success coaches. And so, like I said yesterday, we just opened up just to have the conversation. You know, one thing that we always say in our training is that we may not always agree, but everybody's opinions and what you believe, what your experience, like, it's very valid. And so, but we have to be in a space where everybody can be heard.
Right.
Because when you only allow one voice or one type of voice, you dismiss everybody else in the room.
Right. And that's good leadership. Because I have seen some posts that said, you know, my supervisor has not said a single thing about what's happening in the world or acknowledging how I could even possibly feel.
Really?
And I feel some type of way about it. And I mean, rightfully you should. Everybody has the right to feel how they feel. But it is a leader's responsibility to like address things like that and to like just put it out there. You ain't got to have all the answers. And I think that's what kind of holds people up, is that they feel like they got to have the answers or have it all figured out or have it perfect, like before they even say anything. But no, like, we're all people and we need like space to like say it, like you said, be seen, be acknowledged, of just the fact that I'm going through something here. Because matter of fact, I sent an email out yesterday talking about secondhand trauma. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, secondhand trauma simply is when you see something, you are not directly experiencing it, but the trauma, the weight of the situation still impacts you and it holds you. So for example, for those of you who have children, let's say, for example, when you heard Trayvon Martin pass away, you then start to think about what would happen if you got the call that your child was not coming home after sending them to the gas station for some Skittles and Arizona tea. And thinking of that can cause you internal trauma and internal anguish, and just know that any day could be a day where that happens. And the weight of that can cause internal secondhand trauma, even though you haven't experienced that. But acknowledging things like that can make the huge difference, especially in the workplace. And I think a lot of people are missing that mark. And, you know, I get that, of course, that's why, of course, these companies are speaking out and they're saying, like, I got an email from Best Buy yesterday and all this stuff. And I get that you're kind of saving that to save face because nobody wants to end up like the Target in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. I'm just a little tad cynical about that. But if you don't do that, that will like cause anguish within your employees, your teammates, your customers. And that's what good leadership is. It just has to be that way if you want to really show them that you really give a damn, just honest, that you really give a damn about what they're even experiencing. And it's just crazy out here. But that was great leadership.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that is needed, and that people we just want to be seen. Like, and you said something I thought was really good. You don't have to know all the answers. I think people shy away from these conversations because they feel like that they have to have a solution right now, or they have to have the answer right now. People, let me tell you something. We are only like, what, 40, 50, 60 something years removed from Jim Crow, and not even that long. And not even, Mississippi just ratified the 13th Amendment, which I think was the 13th Amendment in 2013. It was one of them, whichever one abolished slavery. Don't get on my head today, y'all, my history majors. But
Okay.
I'm saying that, like, the solution to all of these issues and these problems it's not going to be just one conversation. Like, it's not going to be two conversations, right? But we need to start having the conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't have to come up with a solution right now. Honestly and truthfully, people just want y'all to listen. Like, to our non-Black listeners out there, sometimes we just need you to listen. Just listen and acknowledge. That's it. Just listen and acknowledge that this has happened to me. And a lot of people, and I've had conversation with people who, for example, poor or lower class white people who may feel as if it's the same type of experience. There is an experience, but it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even like it's still different. We may live in the same neighborhood, we may work the same job, but at the end of the day, there's a literal, for most Black men, there's like a target on their Black simply because they're Black.
Mm-hmm. And don't even talk about the ones that are tall, muscular, and large, big. There's a guy that I went to college with. He's a Q. He works out all the time, and he's at least 6'2" at minimum, muscular man. And he made a post, and it's like, it's crazy to think that every day I have to be careful about everything that I do just because I'm large, Black, muscular, and have tattoos.
Yep, they do.
And can anyone be perceived as a threat?
That's true. My boss, he is like 6'2", 6'3". He played college football. He is a large Black man. And he shared that he has to smile. Like, he has to smile every day or people will be threatened by him. And he was like, it's tiring. It's tiring that you have to police yourself because how you physically look. I mean, think about the way people or the media portrays Black boys and Black girls. Like, our children don't get the same type of consideration as white kids, because I can clearly see the way that they portrayed Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old who was shot and killed by the police for having a toy gun, and the way they portrayed, I think it was some Olympic people some years ago, these white guys on the Olympic team got in trouble. They called these 20 and 19, 20-year-olds boys, but they treated a 12-year-old like he was a man. Right? Like, the way that if our children are too big, we have to teach them how to not be too big or to not be seen or to not, like, don't draw too much attention to yourselves because you are. And they're going to perceive you as an adult versus a child. You know what I mean? Like, and it's crazy. It's so crazy. And I feel like it's unfair for our kids and just men in general to be that way. But taking it back to my original point, we just need y'all to listen. Just listen and endure the trenches with us. We be in the trenches every day. Yeah. Like, we have these conversations.
I think the word that comes to mind is ally.
Yes.
Anything, just be an ally. Just an ally, just acknowledge, hey, there's a problem. 2, I'm here for whatever you need that I can use in my power to help you out. And I know in counseling, I don't know if it's the same kind of in psychology, but in counseling, a big piece of it is advocacy. And advocacy is simply giving a voice to the voiceless. And so, like, with Blackout Tuesday, even though people took it and ran with it, the point of it was for non-Black people to post it so that other media and other outlets can go through and bring awareness to voting, bring awareness to media and all that good stuff. That is what, like, advocacy is giving that voice to the voiceless. And so that's what for my non-Black listeners, that's what we need the most in this day and time. Our allies who see the problem, are willing to not necessarily have all the solutions, but at least get in the ring to fight with us.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's the reason why I'm more hopeful, is just because all these conversations are happening. Yeah. And for whatever reason, I think that's probably the pandemic playing in. But the entire world, not just the United States, not just one state, not just this little region, but the whole United States, all over. I don't know what Hawaii and Alaska is doing, but the whole main side of the United States, New Zealand, Europe, like they're popping up all over, and that was crazy to me too.
Yeah, I agree. Like the cities, the people have come together. Like they have come together this past weekend, and I will say it was good to see that, you know, those non-people of color who were protesting as well. Not the ones who have been like trying to incite riots, but like the other people who are actually out there, like really and truly trying to be out there. It was good to see that. Like it was good to see the change. Like it kind of puts me in the mind of when everybody came together to get Obama elected, because Obama wasn't simply elected by Black people. Like even though like some people believe that like all the Black people came out and voted,
it was a large chunk.
It was a large chunk of us out there, but other people voted for him too. And so that it kind of reminds me of how we came together for that. You know, like everybody was voting for him. Which made me think that it is possible. So the thing about it is, it is possible to invoke change. It is possible to do this. I will say this, and this is just kind of like my caveat. I've always found it really interesting when people in the media or white people, they bring up Dr. King during times like this. And I find it interesting because and Bernice King, his daughter tweeted this. She was like, y'all know my daddy was the most hated man in America when he was alive. Like the year he died, he was voted the most hated man in America. Like it's so interesting that like now all of a sudden everybody was down for him when he was assassinated, y'all. But y'all hide behind that as like a counter to what we're doing or a counter to what people are doing. And I'm like, it don't work like that. Like that, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. When I see those posts or when people try to like, oh, what would Dr. King do? And this and this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, y'all killed him.
That's them trying to sweep it under the rug.
Right. Y'all killed this man.
That's all that is.
He doing what the people were supposed to. He spoke out. And like,
and did it peacefully. And I don't think people remember, like, just even though he didn't promote violent protests and violent actions, he still went to jail. He still did radical things.
Yeah, very, very radical for their time.
Right.
They hated this man. And Black people, there are a lot of Black people who weren't down for Dr. King either because he was causing trouble for them.
Yeah. So,
you know? So I just had to say that. I just always thought it was just so interesting. And I remember seeing her tweet and her saying, like, my daddy was the most hated man the year he died. Like, let's be real about this, people. Like, y'all really weren't down for the peaceful. Y'all really weren't down. Y'all weren't down for any of it. Let's just put that out there.
Right.
Whether it's peaceful or not, y'all just ain't here for it.
Right.
So I always thought that was interesting. I will say that, like, as Black people, people of color, African Americans, everybody, I think there is like this, I really want to say there's this big push to like just protect your mental health during this time because it could be so draining.
So in other words, go get a therapist.
Go get a therapist.
Call your insurance company, see what if you got 5 free sessions, spend them.
Yes.
Call somebody on telehealth. And
something, man.
Psychologytoday.com. Find a therapist. Type in your zip code. You can find a therapist like that. I just helped somebody out yesterday.
Because they need one. Because we do, like, it's just so much. And it's like when you're constantly seeing these traumatic events and all this stuff that's playing out on social media, sometimes you do need to take a step back and definitely practice like your self-care. Like I told y'all earlier, I'm staying off social media because it's just so much. and you're seeing it's like a constant. This, like, it's just sometimes you just got to put it down, and walk away from it.
Wholeheartedly agree. But I want to finish up by definitely talking about solutions. And I think that, and I'm releasing some content about this too, but I think number one, we got to take individual ownership. And what is it that we can do individually? Before we start, to organize, mobilize, strategize, do all that thing, what you can do behind the scenes, by the way, you have to start with what internally can I do personally. And so, like, for me, that looks like using my background in mental health to create a space for people who are young and our age to be acknowledged, be seen, heard, and supported, and really talk through those things and address those things, and allow that mental health piece that we just talked about to really be heard, and also shift them into thinking where the media and everybody else is saying you don't matter, telling them that you do matter, number one. But so that's number one. I think first we got to see what is it that I can do to help the situation. So if it's, creating spaces, if you're, for example, a pastor, I've seen like a ton of white pastors like speak out against it, which is great. If you like a pastor who needs to use his platform for good, do that. If you got a company, if you're a small business owner and you're just going to look, this business supports Black Lives Matter. You are welcome here anytime. You want to make anything that's do what you can with where you're at first and foremost. And for a lot of us, that's voting.
Yeah.
That's simply going to be informed about your vote and then go vote. Yeah. So do the background and start with the local elections. Of course, we all know about the major elections. That's nationally televised. And of course, that's going to be based on the electoral college and all this good stuff. But the state to state, county to city, all that stuff, that directly impacts you, and you have a direct touch too. Yeah. So make sure that you take ownership of what you can do in your city, in your county, in your state to be able to make a difference, and in your community. So if that is giving back to legacy into those kids, your children, your children's friends, the little white kids that your friends play with, that they go to Little League with, that they play soccer with, if it's opening up your home to them so that they can see a Black family, if it's sending your white kids over to a Black family and knowing that they're going to be safe, if it's creating those relationships, if it's getting on that common ground, do your part to make a difference day to day, especially because when you do that, you're creating it for the future, the people that are coming behind you to come up and say, hey, this is blatantly wrong. We have to do something about this. I'm going to become the next district attorney of Tennessee, who's going to immediately act on stuff like this and come in and boom, boom, boom. Like that, this type of stuff can birth so much stuff. It's interesting that cow manure is called fertilizer, and it causes stuff to grow. So the bad, the stinkiest, the smelliest, the nastiest stuff can fertilize us and cause us to grow all that more, just bigger. Sure. The second thing I think is make sure that your organizations, the groups that you're a part of, are on the right side of this. So if your company hasn't said a statement, if they haven't said anything, if they don't align with the values, the thoughts, the feelings that you align with, you should say something to the supervisor to see whoever's in charge. You should say something to them, because that can make a huge difference as well. And also put the money where your mouth is organizationally. So if it's one thing to make a post and say, this business, this nonprofit, this restaurant, this blah, blah, blah supports this. Okay, great. Hey, we need you to sign this petition. We need you to do this. Can we host a rally here? Can you donate your services at this event in the coming months? Boom, boom, boom. And that's what I think, solution-wise, we can do. But what you got?
No, I agree. I agree, especially with the voting piece. We had that conversation as well yesterday. I think a lot of people get hopped up on the presidential vote, which it is important. It is important. But I think people don't realize how much power Congress has, how much power your senator has, how much power your mayor of your cities, your aldermen. Like, those are the people who have a direct impact to your life. So these local elections, these state elections, I am down for the cause to turn Mississippi, and I believe in my lifetime Mississippi as a whole will turn from its Republican roots that have not done nothing for the state. That's just me on my soapbox, which I'm not going to get on there too hard because I will go in for the cause, because I believe that change can happen. But it is important to vote in these local elections. It's important to be informed. I love that you said to be an informed voter, because do I believe in voting? Yes. But do I believe that you should just vote because that's what your parents did? No.
Or vote just because they're Black?
Just because they're Black, because no. I believe that you have your own set of values, your own set of wants, your own set of things that you desire, and you need to vote for the person that has your best interest at heart. Does that mean every politician is a saint? No. Is every politician a crook? No. However, you need to find out who really is going to do what they say. Like, who's really out here putting their feet to the ground and is really out here trying to make a difference. So look at these politicians now who's been speaking out about what's everything been going on, right? Look at their policy list. Look at what they're doing. Look at, like, if you've never gone to a city council meeting, you can do that. You can go to a city council meeting. You can run for office. If you're somebody, you're sitting at home and you're like, you know what? I want to see a certain type of change. It's not happening. Let me go figure out how I can be that change, right? I believe that there are many people within our age group who have the power to go be that change, right? You can go and you can do it and you can run for it. Or you can campaign for somebody. You can align yourself with people like that. I feel like that is our civic duty as Americans, to go and do that, because we can change here. We can be what we need on these local levels where you're directly impacted, right? If you're not liking how something's going at the school, go try to get on the school board. If you're wanting to make some change, go do that, because we have the power to do that. I think oftentimes, especially during times like this, we can feel as if we can't. We there is a feeling of what you do doesn't matter, right? Like, I've had so many conversations with people who say that my vote don't count, or this don't count, or that don't count, but it does count. It does matter. Like, your voice does matter, and what you want to do matters. And we have the ability to do it, because guess what? A lot of these people are getting on out of here. And if you try to do something different, this is the time to do it.
Yep, like, this is
register.
Get voted.
Time. You can register. If you know people who need to vote or are not registered, you can help register them to vote. Like, we have the opportunity now. We have the opportunity to strike while the iron is hot. Because not only are we having conversations, we're getting out here and we're doing it. I know some people who were feeling bad because, and this is based off conversations we had yesterday, because they haven't been able to go out and protest. And I told them there are other things you can do. If you're not able to protest because of the pandemic or whatever, it's okay. You can donate. You can open up space. Like you said, you can open up a space. You can create forums for people to talk.
Right.
And you can just reach out to people. Like, if you're some of our listeners who are non-Black, reach out to your Black friends and coworkers. Ask them how they're doing and listen. Like, really listen, be genuine in that space, right? Some people had a very rough weekend, or it's just very rough time.
Right. Let me caveat by also saying to those let me talk to the black folk real quick that want to say post. If you ain't posting a black square, if you ain't reposting, if you ain't saying nothing, I'm blocking you. I'm unfriending you. Like, bruh, just chill out. Like, if they don't blatantly like say like all lives matter and like the officers, if they don't blatantly say something like that, like chill out for a second. Just give them. Maybe they're taking a moment to process. Because like I had a couple like raised eyebrows, like, what? Where you ain't said nothing, you ain't posted nothing. What's going on? And then they eventually did. It's like, okay, you good. You can come back to the cookout now. But I think another thing is to, and it might be maybe the most important, is to be consistent with what it is that you're trying to do. One of my favorite motivational speakers released a message talking about the Birmingham bus boycott. I did not realize that boycott lasted 381 days.
It did.
I was like, oh yeah, the boycott that happened because it got to their pockets. Of course, makes sense. Blah blah blah. I didn't know that it was 381 days before they eventually was like, okay, now we'll change something. I didn't realize that, and we have to have kind of that same mentality in the grind of change in terms of making this happen. And I've said this before on the podcast, but I'll say it again, that people who make really big moves in their life, they make plans in 10-year gaps. So my challenge to everyone that's listening to this under the sound of my voice, what do you want 2030 to look like? In 2030, what racial climate, what financial climate, where do you want the world to be? Let's not even start with the world. What do you want your community to look like? What do you want your county to look like? What do you want your state to look like in 10 years? And let's start with that standard and figure it out from there.
That's so true.
And I think that's where real long-lasting change is going to happen. Because I mean, I would love, even though I'm cynic and I'm kind of cynical and I kind of doubt it, I would love for my children to look at this time in history and be like, what? I can't even imagine that. Like, what do you mean? I love little Timmy from down the street. I love John. Like, Johnny's my best friend. He would never say that. What racism? What is that? I would love for that to be the case.
Yeah, I agree. Because I ain't gonna lie, I almost lost it leaving our hotel because we had my nephew with us, and he's only 2, so he doesn't know that there's a difference, and so he speaks to everybody. And so we were walking and he was like, bye. There was these 2 older white guys, and they're kind of walking by. He was like, bye, and they didn't say nothing at first. So my baby said it again, and so one of the guys, I guess he heard and was like, oh, bye. And I was just thinking to myself, like, Lord, they better say something to him because it's going to be on and popping right here with these random people. Because in my mind, I'm like, he's a kid. He's a baby. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know a difference. He doesn't know that we don't speak or he doesn't know. He just knows that I'm leaving and so I'm going to speak to the people because that's what he does. Like whenever we walk out somewhere, he always says bye as if there's anybody there. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I would have said some choice words. I have to stop that. Yeah. I would have said some very choice words.
Of course.
It would have said, this is a kid. Like this is a child. You can say bye.
You can put your racism aside just to say bye back to a child.
To a baby who's only 2, mm-hmm. who does not know that he has a target on his back.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they oh man. They almost got it.
They almost got it that day.
Got it. They would have got it that day. Because that was the day of them protests too. Oh, yeah. They almost got it, but they spoke. Because when he said it again, they spoke the second time. I was like, mm-hmm. Okay. I'm glad they did. They probably saw the look on my face too.
I got you.
So, but yeah. Yeah, I hope that the world does get better for our kids.
Well, we gotta get out of here. Sarah's gotta go, and I gotta go get a workout in. I have not worked out in, I think, like 5, 7. I don't know how long it's been. I'm ashamed to say it, but I gotta get it in. Those of you who enjoy this podcast, share this with somebody who could use it. Like, could really like, maybe even use this as a conversation starter.
Yeah.
So just use it for what it wills. Those of you listening on iTunes, give us that 5-star reviews so we can climb the ranks and get in this podcast to more people. Bring it to you every single Thursday. I don't think we have any announcements this week. Look out for announcements on the Good Life community. We will be opening shop soon. Also, we'll be doing a Q&A session, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
We got some stuff in the works, but nothing ready to announce yet. But you guys keep pursuing your version of the good life, even in the midst of a pandemic, even in the midst of a race war. Keep pushing, keep persevering, and make it a good life, man. But until then, we will see you next week.
Bye, y'all.